Innocence is something that we're only blessed with once in our lifetime. And for a young Hellboy, that precious purity would be put to the test. Before he would do battle with vampires, werewolves, and deadly old gods, Hellboy, like all of us, was just a child. And like any child, he was impressionable, quick to anger, and easily influenced. His mind could be molded into whichever way outside forces saw fit. And on a dark and cloudy night, in the most unlikely of places, a circus would come rolling into town, and the forces of evil would draw close to our young hero, testing his very soul. The night would start like most nights at the BPRD, quiet and surprisingly boring. But this time, a demon is afoot, lurking in the shadows and plotting his escape. That is, of course, until he passes the one room he reveres most of all, the study of Professor Trevor Burtonholm, his adoptive father. And it is here that Hellboy gets reminded, for the first time, of what he is and what dangers he's capable of. Malcolm, an old colleague of his father, would cry for him to heed his warnings about Hellboy, about his true nature, about the trouble he's destined to bring, the end of the world. But the professor decides to take a different path and look past Hellboy's darkness to only see a young boy curious about the world around him. But even though his faith in Hellboy is strong, Malcolm gives him a grim reminder by referring him to Revelation number 7. I saw a city, silent as a tomb, barren as dry bones. And the angel said, "This is desolation." And I went down into it, and the only living thing there was the creature. In most ways, it had the shape and character of a man, and was not terrible to look upon. But then I saw in its right hand it held the key to the bottomless pit. Before Malcolm could leave, Hellboy would race off into the woods and do what any kid his age would do when adults aren't around: smoke. Prior to these events, Hellboy sat at a table with a number of BPRD operatives, laughing and talking over drinks. They even began to speak about the woman they've been with, but end up cutting their conversation short before Hellboy's eager ears taste the pleasures of their words. They tell Hellboy that he's too young to hear such talk, and that he should occupy himself with more childish affairs. At this point, Hellboy has now been told who he is by those he looks up to, figures of authority who restrict him from the freedom he wishes he had, pleasures that he wishes he could experience. But at least out here, in the lone dark, he can be alone, independent, and smoke a cigarette like an adult. Suddenly, the sound of drums dances through the night, and Hellboy notices a clown and a small dog making their way along the lone path. The clown posts a flyer on a tree reading A.T. Roth's Circus Spectacular. And if there's one thing that can catch a child's attention, it's the circus. Hellboy would follow this clown up the hill until he sets his eyes upon an ethereal circus set up deep within the forest. Crossing the point of no return, Hellboy would go deep into the forest and enter the circus. Unlike the glamorous and colorful circus one would be used to, this one was quiet and cold. The animals peered through their cages, watching Hellboy's every move, and even the human attractions kept their distance. And there was something off, something wrong with them all. But this didn't hit Hellboy right away, for he was focused on a different attraction, a voice coming from a dark tent. Ye spirits of the unbound universe, whom I have sought in darkness and in light, ye who do compass earth about and dwell in subtler essence, ye to whom the tops of mountains inaccessible are haunts, and earth's and ocean's caves familiar things. I am the rider of the wind, the stir of the storm. Roar, thunder, lightning, fire, earthquake, spirits of earth and air, burning wreck of demolished world, wandering hell, I do compel ye to rise and appear. Hellboy stood in awe as the fires burned around him, and the room burst to life in a manner of which he'd never seen before. And on the fiery grounds of this circus performance, Hellboy would come up against his first test in the form of a powerful red goddess, rising as if she were birthed from the very flames themselves. She tells him that she can come and go as she pleases, and that nothing commands her. As Hellboy steps away, the tent is revealed as being nothing but a gentleman's club, and its hostess, this beautiful red demon, who beckons him to enter the tent. Here, a woman is giving him the attention he's craved and fantasized about, and she promises that no one will ever know about the things they could get up to. But before Hellboy can make his decision, a more finer gentleman appears to crash in on their dark transaction. He ferries Hellboy away from the demon who beckoned him and saves him from the terrible choice he could have made. But is he truly safe? On their walk, the mysterious man asks Hellboy where his parents are, to which he replies that he doesn't have any. After hearing the conversation earlier between the professor and Malcolm, Hellboy has turned away from the love of the professor and has now possibly fallen on a darker path. But the man encourages Hellboy to go back to him, for he understands young boys like Hellboy all too well, stating that sooner or later, every boy wants to run away to the circus. As they venture through the circus, Hellboy and the strange man spot an image of Pinocchio, and it is here that Hellboy is reminded of the story of Pinocchio from the actual book and not the film, and how he was sold into the circus, where people laughed at his misfortune when he was turned into a donkey. Pinocchio was then drowned as a donkey and eaten by fish, causing him to turn back into a puppet. For Hellboy, this was a sad story, but the mysterious man offered a different point of view. The circus guided him away from the wrong path and back to where he was meant to be. Being a real boy was nothing but a terrible lack of vision on Pinocchio's part. And at this moment, the professor would be going to check on Hellboy in his room, where he would discover that Hellboy has escaped, causing the whole facility to go into high alert. It is here that things begin to take a turn for the worst, as the mysterious man begins to slowly reveal his intentions. He leads Hellboy into a nightmare based off of the tale of Pinocchio, casting him into the dark pits of a whale's stomach. As he comes to, he's then surrounded by a ship graveyard filled with bones and rotting wood. In his confusion, Hellboy runs into a vision of the professor cast onto broken wood, rotting away with every second. This might as well have been his worst fears come to pass. Hellboy then scrambles to find a match to light the growing dark, until the man steps in once again and reminds him of the fire burning inside of his very soul. I saw in its right hand it held the key to the bottomless pit, and I saw a great fire come out of it, out of the depths of hell, and roar across the whole face of the earth. And after that only darkness, and the far-off lamentation of angels in heaven, weeping for the fall of man. As Hellboy escapes the nightmare, he sees the future that's set out for himself. In that moment, he screams for the one constant in his life, the one thing he ran away from, his true father, the professor. The mysterious man and the red woman watch as he runs away. She tells him that he should have killed Hellboy before he ends up being the death of both of them. Where she wanted to end his life, though, the mysterious man wanted to bring him over to their side. And as the professor searches for Hellboy, Hellboy runs into more trouble now that he knows the truth about the dangers of this dark circus. But before he could fully escape, the creatures of the circus began to attack him. Monkeys and lions, all now vicious feral beasts, only wanting one thing: to end Hellboy's life. Our young Hellboy fights them off for as long as he can, but they overwhelm him with their brute strength. Before they can deliver the final blow, the mysterious man interrupts and stops them, allowing Hellboy to escape. It's here that the demons reveal the ringleader of this attack, the Red Woman. The demons all fear Hellboy and what he can do, and this was their only chance. Weaker and easily influenced, they were swayed into disobeying their own master. As Hellboy escapes, the Red Woman unleashes her final trick in the form of two demons that try to hang Hellboy in the woods and end his life. It now becomes a race against time as the BPRD rush through the woods in a desperate attempt to find Hellboy and bring him home. Before the demons could finish their job, the mysterious man saved Hellboy one last time, and it is here we get to learn the identity of the Red Woman and the relationship she has with him. Her name would be Gamori, and the man, her uncle, Astaroth, a great demon of hell. In demonology, Astaroth was known to be the great Duke of Hell, and in the first hierarchy with Beelzebub and Lucifer, where he was a part of the evil trinity. He warns her that for as long as he lives, Hellboy will not be harmed. This, of course, is not of care for the world, but for the destiny of destruction he will surely bring. So Gamori takes these words to heart. Yes, for as long as you live, Uncle. This moment serves as just an inkling of the familial drama to come over the soul of Hellboy. But for now, all seems to be well and quiet, and the demons return to the dark from whence they came. In the end, the professor found Hellboy and carried him back to safety. In Hellboy's mind, maybe it was all just a nightmare. All he knew now, though, was that he was finally safe and in the arms of the people that actually cared about him. The Midnight Circus is but a small moment in Hellboy's early life, but it serves as one of the many times Hellboy is tempted by fate, and even in his darkest moments, his pure heart will light the way to his true home. And fortunately for him, it is also a moment where he realizes that he can't face the dark without his loved ones by his side.